When Star Wars announced the Dawn of the Jedi movie, I, like everyone else, was very excited. But after thinking about it for a little bit, I have some concerns that they're going to have to overcome. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink. If we go back to the original trilogy, it was groundbreaking in the fact that it started in the middle of a story that was ongoing. We didn't see the birth of Luke to the raising of Luke to the Middle Ages of Luke. We caught him at the edge of teenagerdom and his ability to start the story that was already ongoing. We start the movie with an attack that was already happening. We see a character that we didn't know, but the characters that we see on screen knew. This is something that is very common in storytelling. It's starting in the middle of the story, something that's already happening to build the momentum. It's not the beginning, the middle, and the end. It's kind of starting in the middle that has its own journey ongoing. Whether or not Luke is going to be involved in the story is up to him, but it's already started. He's going to be a piece in the story, not the thing that kicks it off. An example, he's gasoline to the fire rather than the spark that will light the fire that burns the Empire down. This isn't a new type of storytelling, but when we look at the original trilogy and what was happening at the time, we saw very clean pieces of sci-fi. This was a unique example of a lived-in world, something that was not clean, was not sterile, it was dirty and gritty. And the storytelling beats followed along with this. It followed the hero's journey in a way that was really unique at the time, drawing heavily from the examples of Joseph Campbell and the types of story and the hero of 1,000 faces. This was what inspired Star Wars way back in the original trilogy. So when we look at Dawn of the Jedi, we're faced with a very different problem. We have an established world that they're playing in, the Star Wars universe, but instead of playing with the things that we know of, they're going all the way back to the beginning of the story. Further back than we've ever seen in the Star Wars timeline before, older than Knights of the Old Republic era, and even closer to the beginnings of the Force. In fact, it is supposedly, according to the name, the Dawn of the Jedi, the origins of the Jedi. What did we just say? Star Wars is known for starting in the middle of a story and continuing that on. What is going to happen if they start at the beginning? Taking the idea of what Star Wars has been for over 40 years and turning it on its head is going to change what we think of as Star Wars. No longer are we just in the middle of the story, we're starting at the very beginning. And that is the first hurdle that Dawn of the Jedi is going to face as a movie. To make it feel Star Wars, it needs to be in the middle of a story rather than the beginning. But how can you start in the middle when you're going all the way to the beginning of the Jedi? Well, I do have one idea. Star Wars is built on the Joseph Campbell style of storytelling. The hero's journey is the bread and butter of Star Wars. And if you look at George Lucas's portrayal of Star Wars and Luke and his heroes, if you look at Luke, if you look at Anakin, if you look at the Clone Wars, the types of stories that he likes to tell are heavily inspired, if not completely taken from Joseph Campbell's style of storytelling. The hero's journey that Joseph Campbell portrayed can be separated into 3 parts: separation, initiation, and return. There are various structures, but typically it's call to, refusal of call, supernatural aid and mentor, crossing the threshold, new allies and enemies, there's an ordeal that happens, death of a mentor, battle with brother, temptation, road back, refusal to return, ultimate reward, and master of 2 worlds. If you boil it down to this main structure, you can find the exact structure in New Hope. Star Wars A New Hope very much follows the same path. Luke Skywalker, hey, he doesn't want to leave his family, they need him. Boom. Refusal of call. Something happens. His aunt and uncle die. Bam! Crossing the threshold is him going with Obi Wan. New allies and enemies. He goes and joins on the Death Star. Finds some new friends in Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Leia. Ordeal happens. The death of Obi Wan happens. Battle with brother is something that I'm not sure if we can necessarily follow in the A New Hope, but temptation, road back, refusal to return, ultimate reward, and master of the two worlds. He has now gone from Tatooine to this new world and is now part of both. He has the experience of the Tatooine life, but is now more worldly, can be a part of the rebellion, but also go back to his roots when it is at all possible, or his roots of his friends and family that he's built along the way. And when we look at Dawn of the Jedi, this is an interesting place because it can't necessarily follow the exact overall structure of the hero's journey in its movie itself in terms of the Dawn of the Jedi, but the main character or characters could follow a similar journey. And what Joseph Campbell said is most stories can follow this typical hero's journey, can be structured in this way, doesn't necessarily need to hit every single bullet point, and it doesn't have to always start with a call. It can start anywhere on the circle, which is why it is a circle. It is not just one type of story that can be told, it's multiple iterations of this one type of story. So if we look at Star Wars as a whole, it needs to have the structure of starting in the middle. It needs to have this ongoing saga that the characters can be a part of, a story that is already ongoing. And it needs to have pieces of the hero's journey and ideas from Joseph Campbell's story arcs in those various works of Heroes of a Thousand Faces, the hero's journey. All of these different works heavily inspire Star Wars and is a key reason, if not the reason, Star Wars is the way it is now and always has been. So if you look at something in Star Wars, you need to look at ways to feel Star Wars. You need to have the structure, especially when you're starting in a new era that no one's seen before that is going to inspire the rest of Star Wars. What is going to happen in Dawn of the Jedi is going to impact how we feel about the Force and the Jedi in all of the future movies. It is so far back that it needs to be the pure version of the Jedi. It needs to be the dawn of the Jedi, something that can ultimately evolve and grow to become what we know of as the Jedi in the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy and the prequel trilogy. So if it does not have that, that is where the Dawn of the Jedi movie can fail. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the ideas that I put forth here. How do you feel about the hero's journey? Do you feel that it is directly inspired in what we know of as Star Wars now? What are some key examples, and how do you find the ideas of Joseph Campbell's story in Star Wars and this idea of starting in the middle? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, check out our podcast, and may the Force be with you.